It is launch day here at Invite Press, and we are so excited about the release of our newest title, The Sound of Leadership Kingdom Notes to Fine Tune Your Life and Influence, with author Jules Glanzer. Jules, welcome.
Great to be here and glad to see the book live and ready to go.
Let's talk about where you are. It's this beautiful oak tree behind you. You got a nice scenery and setting today.
I am in Marble Falls, Texas at a golf course watching my granddaughter, who is a freshman in high school, play in the state golf championship. And after day one, she was 6 strokes out of the lead. So kind of
All right.
exciting to watch her. So we'll
What a
see if
wonderful
my
day.
not being close to her brings her more luck or not.
Well, we got good vibes on launch day, so maybe that'll transfer over to her and in her play as well.
Absolutely. You know how it is when you're a grandfather, man. You just live to see what those kids are going to do.
Yeah, well, it's a great day. It's a beautiful day to be outside here in North Texas. You're not too far from our offices here in Plano, so it's pretty neat to see you out there. And thanks for taking time to celebrate the book with us and taking time away from your granddaughter's play there today.
And Len, thank you so much for all you've done to make this a reality for me as well. You've taken the risk of a no name, no platform, first time author, and I thank you so much for making it happen.
Talk a bit about the experience being a first time author. This must be a kind of a thrilling moment. You know, you don't have the jadedness that you sometimes we work with an author who's done 10 or 12 books. You're like, another launch, but it's always fun to work with a first time author.
Well, so far, no one has criticized anything that I said. So that's kind of a new thing for me as a college president making decisions. There was always someone who was critical of what you did. So I'll see what happens in the next couple weeks as people start reading the book. It's really been an interesting and fun and enjoyable experiences, and you Invite Resources have really helped make that happen as well. In some ways, I keep thinking that it's a lot like 1 Corinthians 3:6, where it says, I planted, Apollos watered, and God made it grow. And that's kind of what's happening here. I planted some seeds, put them on paper, Invite Resources, and you and your team have watered it and cultivated it. And we'll see where God takes the message and how it touches the lives of people.
Well said. I like to tell people that book publishing is slow-mo excitement. And so you have moments like this, that are kind of the moments you can celebrate that, 99% of what we do is heads down behind the scenes, and every once in a while you get to kind of talk about a great launch day to celebrate the completion, be able to hold a book and see it in its final form. And it's just always a pleasure and a joy to do that. We had it on the screen a minute ago. You're president emeritus at Tabor College. That's in Hillsboro, Kansas, a college in the Mennonite tradition. You're also a consultant with the Timothy Group, and now you're an author. So you can add that to your bio here.
And I can take the wannabe off. Author wannabe.
That's right. So talk a bit about what was your inspiration? What led you to want to write this book to begin with?
This book evolved. It started with when I retired from the college presidency. I found myself thinking about, now, what really have I learned here about leadership? I have studied leadership and taught it and observed it and practiced it all my adult life. And I said, the main takeaway from serving as a college president, I discovered, was the importance of triaging the voices. There are so many voices that come at you with every decision that you make. And how do you distinguish? How do you discern? How do you decide which ones to listen to other than who is speaking? And that, I wrote some of that and I shared that with you, and you came back and said, well, that's really good, but you need to add, I think it was another 20, 30,000 words to make this happen. So I began looking at the various images, acoustical images around voices, and then music, and then just noise and sound in general. And all of that led to the book. And the whole idea is to encourage people to live authentic lifestyle of leadership. Uh,
Mm.
you see, there's such a crisis of leadership, it seems. I don't deal with the crisis. I just simply provide an alternative way of living and dealing with leadership around the whole theme that leadership is being, resulting in doing. Who you are determines how you lead, and how you lead flows from who you are.
I want to key off that last sentence there, Jules. It's what I love so much about the book. Of course, there's been a gazillion books written about leadership over the last 20 to 30 years, as you've addressed on your social feeds and in the book a little bit. But what makes this book different, and what excited me so much about it, was that last line, what you just said. It's the being that results in the doing. It's so much of what we see. It's odd. Like you tell me this crisis of leadership, which is 100% true. This cult of leadership, which doesn't seem to be working at all, and it's because it's treated as an instrument. It's treated as something you do that's apart from who you are. And so the book really talks about that what you do comes out of who you are, and that kind of integrated approach is not something that you see so much in the literature.
Yeah, most of what you read, well, there's actually over 50,000 books on leadership on Amazon that you can purchase if you want. And all of them deal with kind of the externals, the methods, the results, the accomplishments, the accolades. And The Sound of Leadership focuses more on who you are and living an authentic leadership lifestyle that's rooted in who you are and who you're becoming as well.
Mm.
And I just hope that we could catch on to that in some way in our leadership world.
You mentioned at the top of the broadcast here that you haven't had any negative commentary so far about the book, but I'm assuming you've had some positive comments. So what's some of the early feedback you've received?
Well, I haven't shared that much except with the people who provided endorsements, and their feedback which was really affirming to me, was, "You've lived this. We've heard you teach this. We've watched you practice this." That was what was really significant to me. To hear Carl Zaugstra send an email to me and said, "I've decided to view some of my own leadership and examine some of it." And that's really what I was wanting to have happen with the book, that it's a really simple, easy read, and I want people to take rabbit trails in their mind while they read this and think about their own leadership experiences. And to hear one of my mentors say, who bears the same title with a different college, to hear him say, "I'm going to examine some of the things that I did as well," that was really affirming to hear that. Also to hear like Mary Kate Morse, who I worked together with, and Chuck Connery, and their affirming words. These were people that I lived and worked and led together with, and to just hear them talk about what they experienced by reading the book really meant a lot to me.
Josiah, go back to the Zaugstra, the Carl one. I wanted to read this here for our viewers. This wonderful little book zeroes in on the person of the leader rather than, as is common, on the techniques of leadership, as we have discussed here. Building on the biblical insight that it's the divine sound that has brought all things into being, Jules Glanzer demonstrates that it's also the sound created by the leader that now helps shape the divine kingdom. Just this integrated approach is so good. Now, Carl has a connection, as you have mentioned to me, with the CCCU, as do you, being a former president at Tabor, the Council for Christian Colleges and Universities. I would imagine that this would be one of the places in which hopefully the book finds the best amount of resonance, if I can use that word.
I would love for that to happen. It's kind of interesting when I look over the list. Most of my friends and colleagues, while I was serving as a college president, have retired themselves or moved on. So there's only a handful left in the council that I was good friends with.
Yeah, but that's such a needed community, though, and one that I've been fascinated by as I've gotten to know you. And I've got a college student of my own who is in a Christian college at University of Mary Hardin Baylor. So there's I came out of a Christian college at McMurray University in Abilene, so have a lot of passion for the private Christian college and its role in the culture, and I think this book ties into that. I hope it does.
Absolutely. And it also is an example of what happens in Christian higher education. I think when people go that when students decide where they're going to go to college, they often are asking the wrong questions. And the basic question they need to be asking is, what kind of person will this college shape me into? What kind of person will this college experience mold me into being? And I think that's where how it ties in with the sound of leadership, because it really is a life shaping. We focus on the heart, and then out of that comes our expressions of how we live. And most Christian colleges want to do that. And this book is just an example of that.
The book is available today. It's been available on pre-order, but one of the things we do with launch day is to emphasize how you can purchase it on Amazon, and it really helps Jules. It helps Invite. If you can buy either place, if you buy on Amazon, what it does, of course, is it drives the ranking and helps those algorithms. And we've seen it happen over and over, where a book hits number one in its category, and then after that, it self-sustains a little bit, at least for a time. So part of the hope of a launch day such as this one is that we see Amazon get some action. So this is the day. If you have not purchased the book, if you have friends that you want to refer the book to, this is the day to send them to Amazon to help that ranking achieve its best possible result. Of course, it's also available on inviteresources.com and wherever books are sold. Currently on Amazon, it's just about, looks like it's around in the top 100 for Christian leadership. So that's where we want to be on a day like today, and hopefully it'll continue to rise as the day moves forward. What would be your definition, Jules, of success when you look back a year or two on this book and its launch? What would you hope to have happen?
I would hope that the people who read it would have evaluated their own leadership and would be leading in a more authentic way, in a more biblical way, in a more kingdom mindset way. My hope is that they would also be leading groups and mentoring others to lead in a way that brings honor to God, that's biblically rooted, and that continually seeks the kingdom. That's my desire for the book, that it would touch the lives and hearts of people. The takeaways at the end of every chapter are designed for people to spend time discussing and talking about it and get their minds thinking about and evaluating their own leadership.
Those takeaways were an ad that we put in, which you talked about, referenced back to some of your classroom activity and how the students always knew that you would provide a takeaway at the end of a lecture. Is that right?
The other day, I was with a group of presidential leadership scholars, and they were asking about the book, and they're looking forward to seeing it coming out and what is in the book that we had in the classes. And I said, well, there's a takeaway at the end of every chapter. And they just busted out laughing, because that's something that at the end of every experience that we had, the question was, what's your one takeaway from this? And we would go to presidential libraries. We would visit face-to-face with authors and governors and business leaders and educators. And we would always get in touch with people who were very successful in the world of leadership. And each time at the end, that was how we evaluated it. What's your one takeaway? So that's what's true with every chapter here. And Len, that was your idea, and that was a great idea. Thanks for thinking up and putting it into the book.
One of the goals of it, I hope, is that it makes it more accessible for group settings. I see this book has real potential for like small group settings, study settings that people can sit with as a group and really do the inner work of forming, the spiritual formation and kind of whole person sanctification, as we talk about in our tradition. But that's really one of the goals of that takeaway piece.
Leadership development, and this book is a leadership development book, always begins with ideas, and it requires reflection. It needs relationships, and you need participation. and then it ends up in service and entrepreneurship. And that's what I hope this book does.
Me too. I hope so too. Again, you can purchase this book on Amazon. The Sound of Leadership, now available today, launch day, and you can also purchase it on inviteresources.com or wherever books are sold. Jules, again, thank you for your labor of love. No book can ever fully justify the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that goes in its creation, but it's nonetheless, it's great to see it out in the world. And so thank you for that. And we're going to let you get back to watching your granddaughter whack that ball down the fairway there.
It's been an honor talking to you. Thank you so much, Len, for all you did. And my thanks to Josiah for him making all this happen. Appreciate it so much.
All right. Thank you, Jules. So The Sound of Leadership, now available at Amazon.